Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He stuck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
We welcome you to a new week on the program and a changing of the season. That is me. I am Dr. Paul in blue shirt for the Big Blue Nation. We know how to do this, so we've done it before, and it's sometimes not very easy. Welcome aboard, and this is the night we were planning on taking you up to tip-off of the National Championship game between Duke and Kentucky. Now, we will still be doing that, but it will be Wisconsin and Kentucky. What is with the Big Ten and SEC schools in national semifinals? This seems to be a trend going on. Maybe we'll talk about that and why this evening will be so interesting. Anyway, we'll take many guests. We'll go to Lexington. We'll find out the reaction of Big Blue Nation with many, many guests, including John Clay, who writes today that this will go down as one of the 3 worst losses in Kentucky history. 20 years from now, forget I hate Christian Laettner. It may have more to do with Frank the Tank. Darren Ravel on what was lost not only on the court, but in the pocketbook. Andy Katz live from Indianapolis. Coach Calhoun, same. Sean Farham in studio. And Marty Smith is live in Duke, where he'll be reporting on the Blue Devils. But he was in Lexington Saturday night, and he'll give us the latest on the aftermath of Big Blue Nation. And we welcome you onto the program, and my oh my, have things changed. We didn't listen to some of the experts, including R.J. Bell, who tried to tell us that the public money was on Wisconsin. I believed in Cal, I believed in the Cats, and don't anymore. Wisconsin to me looked like the better team, the better coach, and that is why Wisconsin is playing for the national championship in a mere 6 hours from now. We'll get your phone calls, and we'll get them pretty quickly, get your reaction, and talk about what it means and what went wrong and how will this team be remembered, assuming they're remembered at all. I know that sounds cruel, but that's what happens when you fall way short of the expectations. These weren't the expectations that the media put on the Kentucky basketball program. Came from the top down, and Cal is certainly catching some criticism. He won Coach of the Year. He has been elected to the Hall of Fame, but he didn't get the one thing he so desperately wanted, and that was the perfect record. He has one national championship, but a lot of near misses, and that is something that will be interesting to watch as he deals with the aftermath and whether he will stay in Kentucky, as most of us expect that he will. Lance has been running his mouth for weeks about how Duke would beat Kentucky in the national championship. Lance, you won't get that dream, but you are still alive for winning it all. What's going on, and what is your reaction to what happened to the Cats on Saturday night?
Well, I got to be honest, I really expected Kentucky to win. I was really shocked, especially when they had a 4-point lead with 3 minutes left. But I got to get on Kentucky fans, Paul. This ain't about me and you. Kentucky players and fans are sore losers, Paul. Racial slurs, can't shake hands after losing. That's everything that's wrong with college basketball, not me, baby. And I'm going to tell you this. This is what I heard all year. We can beat NBA teams. Our second starting 5 could win this tournament. We got 4 7-footers. Notre Dame's the best team we've faced. I'm talking about that was the national championship, Notre Dame. You choked Kentucky, and I'm in Indy right now, Paul. I don't see a single Kentucky fan. I can't find an SEC network camera. They swore they would be here. They're not. And I was thinking, since Kentucky and the New York Knicks season is over, maybe they can go ahead and play, and we'll see if they can beat an NBA team. And one more thing, Paul, before I get out of here now, and Kentucky fans need to bow down to me, son, because I'm the best basketball caller there is, was, and ever will be. And all they got for me is insults about my character because my basketball mind is unrivaled. If you don't like them peaches, don't shave my tree. You like that, Paul?
Man, Lance bringing some steam today, and you expected that. And, hey, to the victors belong the spoils. Let's grab some more calls and more reaction. Jumbo is up next in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. What's up, Jumbo?
Hey, Dr. Finebaum.
Good to hear from you.
Man, what a weekend. I hate to do this, but I have to agree with Lance. It was pretty sad that we had a racial comment made and that they didn't shake the players' hands. I think that was an embarrassment to the SEC.
Yeah, let me say this about that, and certainly there's been a national outcry about what Harrison said, and I'll leave the expletive alone for just a moment. We'll come back to that. But not shaking the hands of the players, I mean, how classless can you get, and how does that speak of the kind of program that John Calipari is running there? I mean, forget what he said later. Just with that alone in front of the whole world.
Right. Well, I agree with you because it shows bad sportsmanship, and, you know, it's happened. I'm sorry for the SEC, and I'm embarrassed for the SEC, but Kentucky fans should really be hiding their head right now because that was just total uncalled for. And it looks bad on Coach Cal. I know I talked all this about Kentucky all week, but I got to agree with Lance. I got to give him his props, and I hate to do it, but I'm still going to shake his tree from time to time, so he's just going to have to get over that. And what do you think about Avery Johnson, of all people, to be hired at Alabama?
Well, Jimbo, thank you. I actually like the Avery Johnson hire, which is yet to be made official, although everyone in Tuscaloosa has confirmed that it will be announced soon. We don't know why it's taking so long to make it public, but I do think it's an interesting choice. I remember sitting here on Friday with Darren Horn, and we both wondered, is there someone we haven't heard about? And clearly it was Avery Johnson. I think it's outside the box. I think Avery Johnson has more charisma in his little toe than Anthony Grant had in his entire body and displayed in 6 years. Someone asked me yesterday, well, what about Avery Johnson not having coached in 3 years since he was fired by the Nets? Well, has Anthony Grant coached in the last 3 years? So I think he's overall is a positive. It's completely unexpected. It's outside the box. But he, being on ESPN, certainly has great communication skills. I think being an NBA coach, I think will help him recruit to young players who watch ESPN and who know who he is because he coached quite well for the Mavericks and obviously for the Nets, not so well. But I think overall it's going to be a very positive reaction.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Gary is up next. Good afternoon.
Hello?
Gary, you there?
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
I can.
You hear me? Okay. Good. How you doing, Mr. Finebaum?
Doing great, thank you.
It's my first time calling.
Good to hear from you.
I just want to let everybody know that they want to act like racism's not alive and well in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's still alive and well, but you got to also look at them little guys. They're young kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're young kids.
Well, let me ask you this, Gary. Let's take the N-word out of the equation here with Andrew Harrison, okay?
Okay.
Because that's, I'm not going to sit here as a white man from the South and give you a dissertation on that because I'm not really sure. I'm not where he is. I don't understand the culture of today's youth like I did when I was young, and so I'll move on from that. But what about just saying the word? Well, let's take that out and let's say let's just use the F word in there, where he said where he used the F word in relation to Frank Kaminsky. Are you telling me that's classy? I mean, that is totally classless for someone 10, 15, 20, or 50 to utter after a situation, particularly on a podium with cameras rolling and people in the audience.
That's like you at the job that you got right now. You will not be caught out celebrating on State Street because of your reputation. But you look at your age and look at these kids.
No. That has nothing to do with it. Age has nothing to do with it. You're telling me that Andrew Harrison doesn't know better than to do that? Are you kidding me? Why do we want to cut him so much slack? Okay. What's the explanation for that?
Sit there and act like he's not the first dude that's done said that.
I don't care if he's the 1 millionth. Give me one explanation of why that was okay to do.
I'm gonna be true with you. The reason why it's so offensive now is because that N-word is only represented for one type of person. But when the black man called the white man that, everybody's skirt got float up there. Come on, y'all. Y'all been calling black people the N-word. Everybody is. Young people, black people.
Hey, Gary, hold your horses there, buddy. Don't be telling me what I've been doing or what I haven't been doing. I have never called anyone that word in my entire life. And you know why I have never done that? Because my parents at a young age told me, you don't do that in this house, or you'll get thrown out of this house. So don't start blaming me for something I didn't do. Okay?
I did it with my kids too. I don't have them run around acting all that racist stuff. And I got two beautiful biracial grandkids. That it doesn't matter about no color. It just bother my grandkids and see what happens.
Okay.
So what I'm telling you, I'm down here in Kentucky. I know it goes on down here in Kentucky. They want you to see it, but you don't see it. That's the way it's done, man. That's the way it's done all over the United States. Even when it comes to the Spanish or whatever, you see it, but you don't supposed to acknowledge it. It's been going on for millions of years. And now y'all want to get.
Hold on, Gary, explain to me something because I'm new to the world. What's been going on for millions of years?
Are you gonna tell me you've been naive and been not watching TV and you ain't been paying attention to racism been going on?
No. We're not talking about racism here, okay?
I admit that Kentucky wasn't showing professional when they didn't shake the man's hand. They shouldn't have done that. But they're teenage kids.
Oh, come on. This is ridiculous.
Now, wait a minute. You ain't never just because somebody did something to you that made a tease you off, you went over and bought them a coat. Now, have you done that before?
I'm losing you.
Somebody pissed you off, and you went over and after they pissed you off, went and bought them a coat and said, oh, man, I made a mistake.
We have all made mistakes.
Right. That's all. That's all I'm saying. But y'all want to everybody want to put it on TV. Oh my God, he did this.
But yeah, listen, Andrew Harrison is 20 years old.
Okay. I made some stupid mistakes at 20 years old, but
I did too. I made them at 30. I made them at 40. I'm making them right now. Probably carrying on this conversation.
Well, but that's why I was to get mad at you. I'm not going to do that because you're entitled to your opinion like I am. But see, I've seen it and I've lived it. You haven't.
I haven't lived what?
You haven't lived in a black man's shoes, have you?
No, I haven't.
Well, then that's what I'm trying to tell you. I've seen some things you haven't saw.
Listen. I don't have any doubt that you have seen things that I haven't seen. I will not argue that point. I grew up in the South, okay? I've seen a lot of bad things. Now, those bad.
In Kentucky, I see a lot of bad things that goes on.
No, listen, we're not arguing over who has seen the most bad things in their lives, okay?
Yes, cool. That's cool. I just want to.
I'm gonna let you win that argument, okay?
Bud made a mistake, but they're probably getting ready to go to the NBA.
Okay, yeah. Listen. Okay, I mean, Andrew Harrison is not going to care what I think or anyone else thinks. I'm just trying to make a point about let's quit making excuses for a 20-year-old. Everyone's made mistakes, but I mean, let's call it what it is. It was classless. Daryl is up next. How are you, Daryl?
You absolutely nailed it. Exactly. That's the problem. They make excuses for them. That's why they keep staying in trouble. I mean, you don't hold them accountable. You got to hold them accountable. I don't understand if it was banned because a certain race said it, then why would it be okay now for you to? I mean, it seems like I don't get it. I mean, I know if the shoes on the other foot, you'd have Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson on every TV right now screaming about it. I know that for a fact. It was no class, absolutely. But the reason Kentucky lost that game, in my opinion, you learn how to win elimination games by being in elimination games. And the one thing that Kentucky has going against them is they always got freshmen. Just make no doubt about it. But people say whatever they want. Make no doubt about it. Kentucky is the cream of the friggin' crop when it comes to college basketball. If you ain't got them boys out of the NBA that would be juniors and seniors on this team, the ones they had on the floor, they wouldn't be starting. I mean, the Kentucky would mop the floor against opponents. But they keep going to the NBA because of the one and done. But good for Wisconsin. I mean, good win for them. And you know what kills me, Paul? It kills me how all of a sudden John Calipari's a bad coach now. When did 38-1 become bad is what I want to know. I mean, 38-3 lost one game. Just fans
But Darryl, that's why, listen, people were judging Pete Carroll after the bad call in the Super Bowl. You're talking about Saban because of what he – I mean, when you're at that level, you get judged by the biggest moment, not your overall record.
I would agree with that. I mean, Kentucky, and this obviously, you got to be – I mean, if you look at the Duke team in the 90s, they were, Layton was a senior. All them boys stuck around then. Maturity plays a big role in big games like that.
Thanks, Darryl. Appreciate it.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
John is up next in Kentucky. Hello, John.
Hello, Paul, and thanks for taking my call. John Hayes, I'm a 70-year-old University of Kentucky fan. Graduated from law school there, and I love the Cats, I've loved them since I was old enough to remember when my dad took me out in the back seat of a car, wrapped me in a blanket. We lifted the antenna and listened to WHAS radio, Clear Channel in Louisville, Claude Sullivan, who preceded Kaywood Ledford. And so I'm hurt and disappointed with Kentucky's loss. But they won 38 games, an NCAA single-season record. I'm proud of this group of young men. A lot of pressure on them, and I hear criticism of post-game comments, and that bothers me. But what I really wanted to talk about is what I consider to be a national media bias against the Cats all year. Now, I know, look, I used to be a Yankee fan. I still am. Matter of fact, everybody hates a winner. This group didn't deserve some of the criticism they've got. Nobody got arrested this year. Nobody got dismissed from the team. This was a fine group of young men. Coach Cal has been criticized wrongfully, I believe, for things that happened at other schools that he was not ever implicated in. And now he's a Hall of Fame coach. And I am just tired of the crap from the national media. Led up, particularly Fox Sports. I thought they were awfully bad.
What did they do and say?
Well, there were some articles that were really not very complimentary to the University of Kentucky. I know people don't like a winner. Most people like an underdog. I saw a poll. There were 49 states rooting against the Cats. I'm an SEC fan, Paul. But I'm going to tell you what kind of SEC fan I'll be from now on. I maybe don't have long to live at 70, but
you sound pretty good, by the way,
I'm going to tell
John.
you, brother, I will never be for another SEC. 49 states were rooting against the
John,
Cats.
let me tell you this.
Kentucky and the Dominican Republic. What a shame. What a shame.
Let me offer this opinion to you, and I know a lot of fans have called up and said, well, yeah, they're SEC. But I'm with you. I'm not sure I'm in total agreement on the media, but I think the majority of SEC brethren didn't want Kentucky to win. I don't know why that is. I don't know what that is, but I think that Kentucky is so far ahead of everyone else in basketball that there is jealousy and there is some bias against them.
Paul, I agree. There's an old saying: they hate us because they can't be us. And I just want to. I'll close with this. Yesterday was is Easter, glorious day, but a day of mourning for the Cats fans. But on reflection, we got to feel good. And I'm going to tell you, Cal reload and be back next year. They can hate us next year. They'll hate us because they can't be us. By the way, Paul, I've never called a sports radio talk show in my life.
Well, John, I'm glad you made it in, and it was a great call, and it was enlightening to me. So do it again sometime.
Hey, Paul, would you tell my namesake John Hayes there? I spell my name without the E, but tell him to wear a UK shirt one day. I'll never get over him and his Arkansas shirt.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll admit this. 3 years ago at the Final Four when Kentucky beat Kansas, I bought a UK shirt. Excuse me, a UK hat at the airport and wore it home. And I was preparing to put that one on tomorrow afternoon. But I still have it, though.
Look, I'm going to say this. I said all year that Wisconsin matched up better with Kentucky than any other team in the nation. I felt that for months. Wisconsin proved it. I don't think UK had one of its great games, that's for sure. But give Wisconsin credit, and I think Wisconsin will beat Duke, and I hope they do. Yeah,
I think thanks, John. And I think that is there's no salvation. well, don't want to use that phrase in the aftermath of Easter, but I think the best case scenario for Kentucky tonight is Duke going down. Then at least you look at the board and say, we knew Wisconsin was going to be tough, and they beat Duke. But Duke winning will hurt, no doubt. Let's continue with more phone calls, and J.C. is up in New York. Hey, J.C., thank you.
Hey, Paul, how are you? Great
Well,
show, by the way.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a few comments about, first of all, Coach Calipari and the fact that if you are such a great coach and you have a 4-point lead with less than 2 minutes left and you have 2 violations for the shot clock, there's a little problem there, number one. The second thing is, as a coach, even though it's not basketball, we try to teach kids that, sportsmanship is an important aspect of the game, any game, and that I think that coaches should reevaluate their position when the game ends. I think they should be at the end of the line after all the players to make sure that each of their players does shake the other person's hand, because that's an important aspect of the overall sportsmanship. And the third thing is, Frank Kaminsky, I think he deserves a lot of credit for not inferring that there was anything racial about that comment. It was the heat of the moment, and he understood the fact that, they were hurting after that loss, and it makes him a bigger man. And I give him a lot of credit for
J.C.,
that.
thank you. That is a really good comment, and Frank could have been petulant. Remember about 20 years ago when Fuzzy Zeller made a forgettable comment in relation to Tiger Woods. Tiger wouldn't accept his apology for over a week, and then he gave a lukewarm, yeah, we talked about it, line. Frank owned up to it very quickly, saying, hey, we had a good conversation. And I do think today's athletes are closer to each other than they've ever been before. I think social media has a lot to do with it because they're in contact with each other. They're also at camps together. They're at they play a lot of games together for various reasons, AAU and otherwise. And I'm glad, because I didn't want to spend much time on Harrison. I said what I had to say about it. I was probably more disappointed with what he did on the court after the game than he did in the post-game interview when I've done stupid things like that before, too. You're sitting there in front of a microphone and you forget that there are 30 people listening in another room, and you say, can you believe but we all learn. He'll learn from that. Sean is up next. Sean, good afternoon.
I am hauling 40,000 pounds of cucumbers to the Mount Olive pickle plant right now, listening to your show on satellite radio.
Thank you very much.
I called to talk about the Kentucky-Wisconsin game. Your show has run the gamut today. You've had a representative of the Black Panther Party call you, Gary, from Lexington. Then you've had the top graduate in his class from the Kentucky School of Humility, Lance, call and tell you that he's the greatest basketball caller on your show. Then your last couple callers were talking about Kentucky and why they may be hated or not. And my perspective, I'm a North Carolina Tar Heel fan. We've got great respect for Kentucky fans. They are the best in college basketball. They're the most rabid. And because of that, some of your callers are more, Kentucky fans are more like some Alabama Auburn fans, where you've just got some that are just not objective in their fans. They're just rabid fans that aren't looking at how hard it is to win a national championship and things like that. And I also think Kentucky has so many good fans that what happened with these players walking off the court is just so unfortunate. The good fans of Kentucky deserve better players than that act with more class. And it's kind of disturbing. I don't know what is going on with Coach Cal to have had that happen, and it seems like he's dismissed it, kind of like Coach Saban was dismissive a little bit in his press conference. But I think at the end of that game, the last 4 or 5 minutes, he kind of spread the floor, and he just let Harrison, kind of take over, maybe because he's hit some big shots before, but that just didn't work out. I think the ball should have been in the point guard Tyler Ennis's hand. They should have been going down to Towns, and some of your callers have nailed it. You got to question what was going on in Coach Cal's mind. He says he was trying to get it to Towns, but it didn't happen, and I'm looking forward to Wisconsin winning tonight, as most of us are. We don't want Duke to win another national championship. So thanks for taking my call and taking the time to listen to me.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
We're joined by Darren Ravel, the sports business analyst for ABC and ESPN. And Darryl, thanks for the time as always. Certainly, I know the guy in Lexington and obviously outside the arena in Indianapolis with the 40-0 T-shirts is taking a bath today. But what other impact has Kentucky's losing had on the sales, the royalties, the licensing of memorabilia?
Yes, so Kentucky was going to get, we estimate, about $1.5 million in royalties from a national championship associated with Undefeated. To give you an example or an idea, that's $15 million added at retail. From everything that we looked at, Kentucky fans, not surprisingly, were buying every single shirt. They were buying Undefeated. They were buying SEC champs. They were buying Final Four. And so they were ready to buy every single T-shirt, whether they had to move money from something else. So clearly there were a lot of people ready to open up their wallets. I guess the other point is, how far does this then go to the ancillary benefits of a national championship, what they would have gotten? And, donations would have been humongous. Certainly a 10 to 15% increase in donations for sure. And then the thing that they always talk about when they talk about the front porch, that the athletic department is the front porch of the university, how would this have helped getting out-of-town students who are paying double the tuition of in-state students, which they do covet? How would it help someone say, I want to go to Kentucky, which is still, a regional thing to say. Obviously, the Undefeated part of this makes it different from, say, the national championship in 2012.
Kentucky, even without a national championship, is still a pretty big school. It's a state university. But let's talk about Duke for a moment. This is a really small private school right across the street practically from the University of North Carolina, down the street from NC State. What would a win mean to Duke? Because they're maybe a small school, but they're a major national brand, are they not?
They are. And the thing for Duke is royalties actually matter in basketball because, normally a national championship at Alabama, for example, can do $2-3 million in additional royalties. Basketball is smaller. So Duke, when people always think, oh, Duke is a national brand, well, they're about number 40 in total royalties, even with football coming around, because basketball is so much bigger. But that's why basketball is important for them. I think this just, affirms the legacy of an even greater Coach K and the gets another, generation of people who want to be, jamming into Cameron Indoor and be in Krzyzewskiville and do all that. And, there's a lot of people who want to go to a great school and also want to participate in sports and the whole atmosphere of being a spectator. And that's being good at basketball is good enough for some people. So I think it's definitely part of the lore of the school, and another championship extends it for another generation.
And I certainly don't want to slight the great state of Wisconsin. I know the money made by the Packers, not only up there and nationwide, is pretty large. But what would a win mean for this school? It's not like people in New York or L.A. are going to roll out of bed tomorrow morning and say, hey, I want to go to Wisconsin, are they?
No. It is different. I think there's different type of goals there, but I think this would be big just because of the basketball part of it. Listen, they've done incredibly well, as we know, going to so many Rose Bowls, and that certainly put them on a national level. We know they take a tremendous amount of students, one of the biggest schools out there. But, yeah, I think having a national championship in basketball, again, just might not get the person waking up and say, now I want to go to Wisconsin, but it might get someone where Wisconsin's kind of wow, now you got football and basketball together. I think that's going to add a little bit to Wisconsin, but I'm not sure, as you say, it's the out of nowhere, like people were talking about Florida Gulf Coast.
And finally, we spent a lot of time on this program talking about the significance of national championships at Alabama, Florida State, and obviously now Ohio State in football. How does the football-basketball comparison stand up?
Yeah, I mean, financially, it's just not in the same ballpark. When the fact is that you need, in most places, let's take out Duke, but in most places you need, 7 games to get the ticket revenue of 7 home games. I mean, in 2 football games, you can essentially do the entire home crowd of basketball for an entire season. Football also, usually, if you have football and basketball together, football still drives the booster dollars. Say in Wisconsin, if they win the title tonight, it's still going to be football that's going to drive the engine. But again, to have both is a home run, and you get the guy who's just in basketball. But for the most part, if you want to win one title, you want to win a football title over a basketball title. It's 3, 4, 5 times bigger in licensing, donations, and other financial metrics.
Great stuff, as always, from Darren Ravel. Talk soon, Darren.
Thanks, Paul.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Andy Katz, nice enough to join us nearly every week of the season here. He's now up there, and Andy, not to forget about tonight's game. It's great and all that, but just in the people you have spoken with and around, what is the what's the spin on Kentucky's loss late Saturday night?
Well, Paul, I don't know if your listeners would draw the parallel, but I do think there is a connection with what happened with Alabama in college football and Kentucky here in college basketball. There was almost a coronation, an expectation that Alabama would be playing for the national championship in football, and then Kentucky in basketball. And it's almost like shock that they're not playing for the actual championship. And I saw a lot of that yesterday around here in Indianapolis with Kentucky fans that probably had paid 4 to 5 night minimums in their hotel rooms, paid for their tickets, and didn't want to go home or weren't choosing to go home and maybe couldn't go home. So a lot of shock in that regard, but I disagree that he was out-coached, if anyone is saying that. I just think this was a situation where Wisconsin won the game late with Sam Decker hitting that huge 3 with under 2 minutes to go. Wisconsin with a little bit of a questionable shot clock violation, second shot basket by Nigel Hayes, but they made plays to win the game. Kentucky did not. They had a couple of shot clock violations. It was really the first time this season that Kentucky got a little tight on the court, not necessarily on the bench, on the court when the game got tight. And so in that manner, you could draw a parallel to that UNLV-Duke situation where UNLV got tight when Duke made it a close game back in 91.
We can come up with 1,000 explanations. Certainly Wisconsin being extremely good would be the one I would rest my laurels on. But can you look back over this season, Andy, and find anything that would point toward Kentucky not being able to get this done, or was it simply Wisconsin Saturday night?
I think it was just Wisconsin Saturday night. You sound a little down, though, Paul. As if you're feeling the pain with the Commonwealth as well.
Let me say, I've just been accepted to the Harvard PhD program. I'm doing a PhD in SEC schools losing to Big Ten schools in national semifinals. I'll be happy to send you the first copy off the press.
Yeah, that'd be a great doctorate. I'd love to read your thesis on that. But look, they had a remarkable season. But as we know in this NCAA tournament, it's cruel. It's a one-game situation. Go back to Villanova-Georgetown. Obviously, Georgetown was the better team in the season. Villanova came up with the perfect game that night and knocked them off. I mean, I'm not drawing a parallel between Villanova and Wisconsin. But as many coaches have said, many analysts, that if this was a best of 7 like in the NBA, then Kentucky would win. But it's a one-game situation. You don't play well in the final couple of minutes, and you can lose. It's unfortunate for Kentucky because they are going to join the group of teams that were some of the greatest teams not to win a national championship, with that Duke 99 team that Shane Battier was a member of, with the UNLV team in 91, with this with a Kansas team in the late 90s as well, coached by Roy Williams, and now this Kentucky team. I mean, a year ago, UConn was not the best team throughout the course of the season. They got blown out by Louisville a couple of times. They were the best team over 6 games in the NCAA tournament. That's not the case with Wisconsin here. They've been one of the best teams all season long.
Let me ask you in terms of John Calipari, and I realize this is the day that he was officially named to the Hall of Fame, and he's won National Coach of the Year, rightly so. But some critics, like there will be, you know it, Andy, you're at the top heap of the shelf in terms of the national media. They'll start picking and choosing their spots on him and say, hey, he's got one, but he's got one national championship, but he has a lot of near misses. What's your view?
Tom Izzo has one. Went to 7 Final Fours. Last one he won was in 2000. I don't hear any criticism of Tom. What John Calipari has done at Kentucky is remarkable. Outside of one season, he's competed not just for the SEC championship, but the national championship, getting to the Final Four multiple times, only falling short that 1 year to West Virginia in the Elite Eight. Outside of the 1 year when they had to go to the NIT, when Nerlens Noel blew out his knee. Had that not happened, I think they would have made the NCAA tournament. They wouldn't have competed for the title that year. But that's the one outlier in his 6 seasons at Kentucky, and all indications are that next season, even if there's a floodgates that are open to the NBA early entry, they're going to be back here with the recruiting class they've got coming in, in contention for possible another trip to the Final Four.
And finally, let's talk about the coaching news of today. And it first broke Saturday night while the semifinals were going on, but it looks like it's official. Other than the actual introduction, Avery Johnson going to Alabama. Not too many people saw this one coming. Having said that, your reaction to the hire?
Well, it's very interesting. I like Avery a lot. Gotten to know him through his work at ESPN. But there is a trend now of NBA guys going to college. We've seen before college guys going to the NBA. Already this season, multiple situations we've seen where you've got Mark Price in Charlotte taking that job. Now we've got Avery Johnson taking over at Alabama. I'll be very interested to see how, his staff, how he's able to recruit down to Alabama. But I got the sense that, the AD at Alabama was going to try to make some sort of splash, even though he could get Steve Prohm from Murray State and an Alabama grad when he want. If you want to get Mike White from Louisiana Tech, he could. Good coaches, but they don't move the needle necessarily. Maybe not win the news conference. Once he couldn't get Greg Marshall and was willing to pay $3 to $4 million to get him and didn't get him, you knew he wasn't going to stand pat and lower his bar in terms of a brand name. So with Avery Johnson, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The other name I blanked there for a second, obviously Chris Mullin going to St. John's, was the other highest profile NBA to college hire over the last couple of weeks.
Let me ask you, and not to be critical of Avery Johnson, I think it's an interesting, if not a fascinating hire, but since he was let go from the Nets after his run with the Mavs, do you know of any or many NBA or college team that has attempted to hire him?
No, not at all. I know he wanted to be involved in Texas, did not get the call, but he is savvy to the AAU scene in Texas. His son, with A&M, he knew Julius Randle very well, the Harrison twins. So he's got some ties in the state of Texas. Clearly he's going to try to link up with that to try to get in at Alabama. So his staff is going to be critical. I texted with him before the hire. He wanted this kind of challenge. But we clearly are seeing the SEC coaches are raising the bar with their kind of hires, with Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Ben Howland at Mississippi State, now Avery Johnson at Alabama. They are going for brand names in basketball to compete with John Calipari and Billy Donovan.
Okay, back to tonight. What's going to happen in a couple hours?
I'm going to go with Wisconsin. Their experience, the fact that Sam Decker is elevating his game to another level. Duke's been sensational. And I don't think their freshmen are going to freeze. I just think Wisconsin is a better team, just a tad bit deeper, and just has momentum on their side. And I'm feeling the Badgers. By the way, it's going to be much more of a Wisconsin crowd. You've got Big Red gobbling up those Kentucky tickets. It may be 70-30 red to blue inside Lucas Oil Stadium behind me.
That's how the colors were designed. Andy Katz, so good to visit with you again, and enjoy the evening. Thanks so much, Andy.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Great stuff from Andy Katz. Some interesting insight on the Avery Johnson hire. Didn't sound like Andy was quite as enthusiastic as some of the others, including myself, but that's okay. He still has not been officially introduced. We're not really sure why this press conference has been delayed so long. Some people thought perhaps yesterday being Easter Sunday and perhaps today being Championship Monday. Alabama officials decided to milk the lead up on that, get all the attention leading in, and obviously maybe introduce him tomorrow. Jim Calhoun, we liked him so much the other night. I had a blast talking to Coach Calhoun that we were able to twist his arm and come back with us. Coach, good afternoon, and thanks for being with us again. And obviously we're all talking about tonight right behind you. Good afternoon.
You know what? It's nice to hear Alabama talking basketball with the new basketball coach. So, I'm used to football. I'm used to CM Newton, my good friend Wamp. And so, I think back a little bit that. But bottom line is, yeah, it's a big night. It's a big night for college basketball. I always say this is very comparable to the coach's Christmas in the basketball for basketball people.
Well, let me get your thoughts since you raised the conversation about Avery Johnson. It's not official, although everyone believes it will happen perhaps as early as tomorrow. Your take on his apparent hire at Alabama?
Well, he can coach because he's been a very good coach in the NBA. Yeah, like any NBA guy, and I think you and I both know, like college coaches in many ways too, you're a slave many times to your players. And by that I mean if you have good players, you win. If you don't have good players, you don't. He has one. He's been coach of the year. He was a terrific player and a point guard, so he understands and knows the game of basketball. And as much as any other single thing, I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, in basketball, Alabama needs a little bit of a splash. He's a guy that's been there, dealt with great players, and I think he's good for Alabama. I'm just telling you personally how I think as a guy who, coached 40 years in Division I basketball.
Coach, let's talk about losing in the big moment, and it didn't happen to you very often. You won 3 national championships on Monday night, but Coach Cal catching a little bit of flack in spite of one of the historic seasons in Kentucky basketball. Your assessment of what happened or didn't go right for him on Saturday night?
Well, it's a good question, Paul, but I'd rather answer it a different way. It's what went right for Wisconsin, who's the better team. Wisconsin, I thought it was 2 very talented teams, different kind of talent. One had great size, great defensive play, but I'm not so sure that the offensive system of Kentucky was built for that senior, junior laden team at Wisconsin. So it would be talent and talent system. And I think the system down the stretch, I said to somebody the other day, or yesterday actually, that I thought that a little bit that Wisconsin had that Clint Eastwood, make my day. They had that cold, dark stare. They made shots. They got shots out of the system. It wasn't Cal. It wasn't Kentucky. They didn't lose. They got beat.
There were some fascinating calls in that game as well. Do you think they had an impact?
I do. I thought they had an impact. I couldn't stand the charge when the kid left his feet, took 2 steps, and called the charge. The goaltending, the shot clock violation, maybe yes, maybe no, out of bounds plays. But you know what? When you do this, I coached 1,300 games in basketball. A lot of those nights you're not going to get what you want. I personally thought each team had a chance to win. Wisconsin won, and they beat once again. I didn't think Kentucky lost.
Finally tonight, you've won 3 national championships, so you know what it takes to win the big game on Monday night. I asked you the other day about what it was like. It's now 4 hours before the game. You told me Friday, early in the day, you were by the pool reading. I assume at this point in your championship night, you were no longer reading.
The book was put away, and the book on Duke or who else you're playing was certainly right in getting back to it. But no, I think that I tell you exactly how it feels. Around this time, with a little 5 hours to go, I would be anxious, not nervous, but anxious to wait the game to get to start. As you could well imagine, Paul, it's a long day, but these kids, they can create a lifetime of memories for themselves. I mean, they both had great seasons, but Dean Smith, God rest his soul, said to me one time, tell me the last 10 teams. This was a number of years ago, 15, 20 years ago. Tell me the last 10 second-place finishes. I get 2. I could give you all the champs in 10 years. I couldn't give you the second-place finish. That's what sports is about. You and I both know that.
Let me ask you about playing Duke. You beat one of the great Duke teams, maybe the greatest that didn't win the national title in '99. Everyone knows what it's like to go against Duke, and conversely against UConn in recent years. But as you were approaching that game, what was going through your mind in terms of the opponent and the coach on the other sideline?
Well, the great thing Mike does, Paul, if you were to look at the scouting report, it takes about 1 page to look at Duke. But what's in that 1 page is very important. I think the best starting 5 in this whole tournament, 68 teams. I also believe he's got them to play Duke, pressure defense. Now, when you see the pick and rolls, when you see Kamansky put the ball down tonight, the key to me will be how much that pressure defense bothers them and takes them. Can they take them out of their offense? I don't care what happened in December. Jackson, who's been hurt, just coming off. I mean, he had 25 points in that game. A kid who's Solomon, who's no longer with Duke, he had 16 in that game. This is two different teams now, two very good teams, kind of know each other. The game is going to be predicated, in my opinion, on how much, Duke pushes and prods and pressures Wisconsin out of their offense. I haven't seen anybody do it this year. It's going to be a hell of a fight, no question.
Coach, many thanks for the time. I have thoroughly enjoyed these two conversations, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
We'd love to do it, Paul. Thanks.
Thanks. The great Jim Calhoun, winner of 3 national championships, including an epic Monday night battle 16 years ago against Duke, a great Duke team as well. Let's talk to Bobby, who is up next in Birmingham. Hey, Bobby.
Boy, it's been hot today on that Paul Finebaum show.
It has been.
How you doing today,
Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, I just want to give my opinion about that Kentucky and Wisconsin game. I still think that Notre Dame was the better team that they played. But I always say it comes a chance in any ball game. I don't care whether it's ice hockey, football, or basketball. It always comes time to change the flow of the ball game. And Kentucky lost the ball game in the first half of the ball game. Now, this is my opinion. Even though it was 30-30 at the end of the half, Kentucky lost the game by not rebounding. And if they had a rebound, now go back and check the statistics. If they had rebounded in the first half of that ball game on both ends of the court, it wouldn't have come down to what you had 3 consecutive shot clock violations. All that never would have happened. But they act like they had lead in their feet, Paul. They wasn't rebounding. And then when it come down to the 3 shot clock violation, if they had tried to penetrate and draw the foul, they look like some team that I know that love to lose ball games in the last 2 minutes of the ball game. You draw up a play, and then they act like they got deals in the headlight. And I want to say something about that Harrison boy. You know, I always wonder why people make statements like that. But I tell you who summed it up for me. And that was Senator Trent Lott from Mississippi. You remember Trent Lott from Mississippi?
Yes, sir.
Right. He lost his job for making a statement somewhat to, what the Harrison twin made. And they asked Senator Lott, say, well, why did you say that? And his answer was, I got hung up in the moment. I want to say this about Alabama things, whether it's baseball, football, track, gymnastics, or whatever. We know how to win. We know how to lose. But it's two things that we don't know how to do, Paul, and we don't want to learn how to do that. That's turn over cars and sit cars on fire. You have a nice day, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
No, it's great. Listen, in fairness, and I've been to Lexington many times, the Kentucky Wildcat fan base is as good as any in the country. You can't paint a broad brush because of 20 or 30 hooligans. You just simply can't. A lot of people want to, and it's part of the conversation today because it happened in the aftermath of Saturday night.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Don is up next from Birmingham. Hey, Don.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue tonight, what we saw with Ohio State winning the national championship, Wisconsin in basketball of the Big Ten winning the national championship. And what is the reaction going to be to you all in the Deep South who wanted the SEC to dominate collegiate athletics? Seeing the Big Ten all of a sudden winning both basketball and football in the same year.
Well, first of all, it hasn't happened yet. I understand what you're saying. Listen, I've got a favorite in the game tonight in terms of the team I'm pulling for. I've always been a Duke fan. So I know where you're coming from, Don. The SEC is in football is a different animal than basketball. And the SEC in football feels like it has the best league in the country, and you can support that. The SEC cannot make that same claim in basketball, and frankly, I never agreed that the SEC was great in basketball this year. It was better.
They ain't great
And a
in
lot of
football.
people are trying to say that
they ain't great in football.
The SEC and basketball and football are two different issues.
Well, why are the two different things?
Well, I think I'm trying to explain it to you.
Well, explain it.
Well, I'll try again. I'll speak more slowly this time.
Yeah,
downtown.
go ahead. The world can hear you.
The SEC is the best league in football. Even though it didn't win this year, it's still the best football league, and only a moron would argue with that.
Well, the moron
in basketball,
now,
it isn't only. It's not Don. It's not even close to the best league in basketball.
What do you mean it's not the best league? If they win the national championship once again, if they win the national championship in basketball, the Big Ten.
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it does too. That's a lie. That's your myth.
I mean, the Big 12 is fantastic in basketball. The ACC obviously is quite good. The Big Ten is certainly looking rather strong at the moment.
But the reality
no, Don, you don't know what you're talking about.
You
here. I'm
don't
sorry.
either, and that's the whole problem with you all in the South here. You feel like the Kentucky fans who don't like to lose. You don't like criticism.
Why are you so happy, Don? A couple of questions, okay?
Go ahead.
You live in Birmingham. That is correct.
That's
and
right.
you root,
in Alabama, that's right.
And you
and
root.
There's nothing wrong for me to have an opinion where I see something that's going to change.
Why do you hate the SEC, Don?
This is not about
why do you hate? Why are you a hater?
Conference. This ain't about hating the region of the Deep South.
Yeah, it is.
Get off that mindset.
If Kentucky had won,
what is wrong with people having difference of opinion will come to yours and anybody else's opinion?
Now, how long have you been listening to this show?
Yeah, I've been listening to your show. I've been watching your show too.
Have I ever had a problem with difference of opinions?
No, but you and your folks here get very irritated and upset when people have a different perspective.
Okay.
Than yours.
What is your okay, Don? What is your? Let's forget basketball. What is your perspective on football? Do you think the Big Ten is better than the SEC?
Well, I think the Big Ten is showing me that they can compete against the SEC. And that's why I think what's happened here.
Okay. Well, you didn't answer my question in football. What about basketball? I mean,
look. If Wisconsin wins the national championship, this national championship tonight, you will have a whole. You talking about you talking about conversation in football. You'll have a conversation in basketball.
No, you won't.
It doesn't matter where you live.
The Big Ten is very good in basketball. I mean, had two Final Four teams, but no one is going to. First of all, no one's really even arguing your point, Don. I'm just simply trying to have a conversation.
It appears me, you, and the folks in the Deep South media folks here.
You don't know what you're talking about.
The Deep South media folks here don't. I see why you are pulling for Duke, because you all represent that regional part of the country. But right now, the hot team right now is going to.
How do you feel about Alabama's new basketball coach, Don? You think that's a good decision, Avery Johnson?
What? Talking about Alabama?
Yeah.
I don't think. It was a good choice. But I'm going to see how long they're going to allow him to coach this basketball team.
He hasn't been introduced yet, John.
Well,
why are you worried about how long?
I'm going to see how long these folks in this state, this university here, is going to allow him to coach.
And what is that? And Don, what is the translation of that to the average person?
Well, the translation is that he's a black coach.
Oh, he's a black coach.
He may be from this part of the country, but we all know
from New
that
Orleans.
the powers that be.
Okay, Don. So Alabama had an African-American coach for 6 years. They fired him. They replaced him with another African-American coach. And you're trying to find race under the big oak tree here, right?
Anthony Grant, I'm going to say the same thing about Avery Johnson. We're going to see how long he's going to stay there at the University of Alabama.
You're an Auburn fan, right?
That's right. And
your school.
This is a routine. I know the folks in this part of the country. These folks, one, they have an attitude problem. 2, they don't like to change. And 3, they don't like to lose. Period.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay, Don, that made a lot of sense. Charles is up next.
Good afternoon from the loveliest little community on the plains, Reeltown, Alabama. I'm sick of hearing this basketball talk, Paul.
Who do you got tonight, Charles?
Who gives a flip? I don't give a dad blame. I'm sick of this basketball talk. I'll be glad when the night's over with, tomorrow's over with, and we can get back to talking about football. Football spring training is going on all over the SEC. The SEC is a football school. That's why you own ESPN. It's because of football, not no bad blame basketball. About 2 days of this basketball is enough from Charleston Realtown. I don't care about basketball. If old Calipari come down out of Auburn, Alabama, he would lose. You can't win at these schools, only at Kentucky, because they learned a long time ago they would never be worth a flip in football, and Vanderbilt ought to have learned it. They almost did, but then they keep trying to be something in football, which they never will. And I tell you another thing. Why are you so high on this Avery Johnson? He ain't never done nothing. He ain't never coached in college. He don't know how to recruit. He don't know nothing about college football. You think he's going to come in and be the Nick Saban of basketball? Is that what you think, Finebaum? Huh?
First of all, Charles, you just go through saying you don't care anything about basketball, and then you start criticizing the Alabama basketball coach.
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm criticizing you for bragging on him. Who do you think he is, Nick Saban? Huh? What makes you think he's going to do a great job?
You can only make a projection. I gave my
what
opinion.
Projection? He ain't never coached in college. You don't know what he's going to do in college. He ain't
Charles, he played college basketball, so he knows a little bit about it. He has a son that plays in the SEC.
He ain't going to be able to handle all that college player. He don't know he's out of his league. He ought to stay in the pros. And Alabama ain't going to never be no basketball college. They might well forget about it. They ain't going to win in basketball. Kentucky's the only one that's going to be a basketball team in the SEC. That's what I don't understand.
Okay,
all these
Charles.
basketball morons are calling in. Y'all won't have nothing to talk about after today and tomorrow. You're going to have to talk about
Charles,
football.
Charles, hold on one second. By the way, congratulations. You have just beaten Tammy and have advanced to the finals against Phyllis in the Finebaum Madness Final Four.
So I'm going to go against Phyllis.
Yeah, you and Phyllis. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, since Phyllis don't know nothing about sports, I ain't got a worry in the world.
So you've met Phyllis, haven't you?
I ain't met her, but I've seen her.
Okay. It had to probably hurt you to beat Tammy. I mean, you guys are like blood brothers, aren't you?
Yeah, we've been kind of drifted apart, but we'll always be blood brothers. You know.
What was the breakup all about?
Huh?
Why have you two drifted apart?
Well, she's working and can't call in much, and she's married. You know, she's busy doing other things.
Okay, that's okay, Charles. No big deal.
No big
well,
deal.
anyway, we wish you well against Phyllis. Down to Phyllis and Charles for the finals of the Finebaum. When will that be revealed, gentlemen? Anytime soon? Or?
Well, we're going to wait to hear from Phyllis. It will end tomorrow at the latest.
It will end tomorrow, we're told.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN. ESPN Radio.